What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show as we dive deep in culture this week. This week we saw a Nickelodeon commercial video being put out for Pride Month, and we saw a lot of conservatives talking about it, and I'll talk about it later, but there's a reason I didn't talk about it because I wanted to save it for later. But little did I know there would be more information coming out about a first grade teacher and where this and new videos being pushed, and why I think it's a huge problem when you mess with kids' minds and because they haven't developed their cognitive abilities and psychological abilities to be able to understand some of these issues and be able to confront some of these issues, and they don't have the logical mind in order to interpret and how to best respond to some of these things. But we're seeing in culture, I'm a little fired up, but we're seeing in our culture right now as there is a mega push to push sexuality on children as younger and younger and younger, and it's going to take more and more people to push back against it. And I'm talking about you. If you're listening to my program, you probably think a lot of the same things I think, but I like people that don't think the same things, of course, but there's a reason you listen, because you're in this fight with me. I have a huge problem. You over-sexualize adults. I don't care. We could discuss that all we want, but when you're talking about children's minds, that's when I have a huge problem. That's when I'm going to fight back, and that's why I'm going to fight back to the death. I have a bunch of articles I'm pulling up for this podcast, so if you're listening to the audio only, I recommend going to my YouTube page, putting on the big screen or whatever, go to Derek O'Shea Show, and you can find me, and hopefully this video stays up, because I'm going to be diagnosing the problem of over-sexualizing children and why it's a mainstream idea now, and how it used to not be. As I looked up old articles, even the Huffington Post in 2012, about the problems of over-sexualizing children, but stuff like that is dwindling, and it's gone. Because here's what they do. Here's what liberals do. Here's what culture shifts do. They slowly introduce ideas to where you start to think, okay, this is what I should believe. This is good. This is true. As we see a new story coming out this week about a first grade teacher using this cartoon video, which I will save for the end. We'll talk about this video at the end. But a first grade teacher gets fired over teaching first graders about masturbation. But she used a cartoon to do it. So it's not like she's not the main problem. There's a huge problem that needs to be addressed. But this is a mainstream idea. This is an idea that is pushed. And who is talking about this first grade teacher being fired for teaching children about masturbation? It should be a huge story everywhere. Fox News, New York Post, Fox News again, Newsmax, NY Post, Hannity, IB Times, National Life, Breitbart. Who is talking about this? Conservative outlets. They're the only ones that care about this issue. You're not going to see this on CNN. You're not going to see this on MSNBC. You're not going to see this on Daily Beast, Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, whatever news source. You're not going to see this on Bill Maher. But you're not going to see this push because they don't see a problem with it. And they don't understand it. And they think teachers are just good. They're just going to teach our kids no matter what. As we're seeing critical race theory being pushed, and now an over-sexualized generation, and you need to push back against this. Why do I think so? Because of the cognitive stage of development for kids. This video that was pushed was for first graders, so like age 2 through 7. Let's go through some of the cognitive development stages. The pre-operational stage is the second stage of Pignat's theory of cognitive development. I'm heavily involved in psychology, so this stage begins at age 2, and children start and last to approximately about 7 years old, so a little after first grade, second grade. During this stage, children begin to engage in symbolic play and learn to manipulate symbols. So their idea is just teaching the values of being a good person, sharing, not bullying, not beating up, not ganging up on people, stuff like that. Like ideas of play, learning how to win, learning just the basic ideas of being a good person and being a functioning person. You have basic principles. However, Pignat noted that not only do they not yet understand concrete logic, so they aren't at the cognitive stage to understand logic. They don't understand huge concepts that adults like you and I can think of. So that's why, another reason why I have a huge problem of pushing sexuality on children. when they should be learning how to play, learning how to love a person, learning how to, somebody's hurt, you help them, basic understandings. Pignett noted that the children in the stage do not yet understand concrete logic, cannot mentally manipulate information. So yeah, this teacher is teaching about masturbation. These kids have no idea what this even is. But you want to press them and you want to push them as opposed to just, maybe we'll talk about that later. Maybe that's something we discuss later. And because you're not yet ready for this information. We are just pushing information on kids that aren't ready to hear it, aren't ready to understand it, aren't ready to logically comprehend what you're saying. But you're putting these huge concepts, these huge sexualized concepts in kids' brains to the point where they're going to be questioning and they're going to be unregulated and they're not going to be able to, they're going to develop something later. I'll talk about what they will develop when you don't help them develop a strong foundation as a child. They're unable to take the point of view of other people, so they can't even understand. Kids at that developmental age can't understand why, let's say little Derek is running in the field and I say something to Sally. At that age, I don't understand necessarily what is going on. I have to be taught what's going on. If I hurt Sally or something happens, they just don't have the cognitive capability to understand big concepts. But we're pushing sexuality on kids. We're asking kids, what's your pronouns? We're asking them, you have white oppression. You have white guilt. You have, you are part of this white, we're putting these mega huge philosophical concepts on children at such a young age and manipulating them and making them into something that will hurt them in the future. Pignett's stages of development. So we talked about the pre-occupational toddlers, 18 to 20 months through early childhood. Erikson developmental stages during that time is another huge, everyone uses Erikson as initiative versus guilt at that stage. Initiative versus guilt is the third stage of Erikson's theory of psychological development. During this stage, initiative versus guilt stage, children assert themselves more frequently during direct play and other social interaction. This is all they should be doing, is learning how to socialize, learning how to interact, learning how to be a good person, learning how to do good behavior. These small concepts we take for granted as adults because we forget what it's like being a kid. We don't remember, hey, if Sally has a ball in the field, I can't just go up and punch her in the face and take the ball. That is such a childish concept, but we assume kids just know that. They don't. And so they have to be taught these things. Instead, we have a culture right now that's no, we need to talk about pansexuality to our kids. We need to talk about non-binary to our kids. They don't have the capacity to understand these concepts, but we're pushing that. And what is it going to produce? They are particularly lively, rampant developmental years in child's life, according to B. It's a time of vigor, of action, and behaviors that parents may see as aggressive. Yes, kids are just trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong. During this period, the primary features involves, and this is from psychology.org, simply psychology, features involves in child regularly interacting with other children in school. That's all it should be about. Central to the stage is play, as it provides children with the opportunity to explore their interpersonal skills in initiative activities. That's all it should be at this age. We shouldn't be talking about masturbating to first graders. You might be listening and saying, Derek, this is of course. Who's doing this? It's being pushed more and more and more, as we saw a first grade teacher getting fired over this. She isn't something out of the ordinary. She's not a unicorn in a field. There's more of her, and we'll follow. Children will begin plan activities, make up games. This is all they should be doing, and initiate activities with others. That's it. Make up games, plan activities, show and tell, talking about their life. It's a given opportunity to children to develop a sense of initiative and feel secure around their ability to lead others and make decisions. Yes, it's all about the security. You want to build a strong foundation for our kids. You want them to feel secure. You want them to feel like the world is safe. That's why when you have major events at this age, it creates trauma and it creates things that they'll have to work through for a long, long time, because it's so fundamental for kids in this age group to feel secure, to not feel guilty, not feel not feel worried or concerned about how they think they are. They need to just develop basic concepts. Conversely, if this tendency is squelched either through criticism or control, children develop a sense of guilt. And that's where we'll go more into. The child will often overstep the mark in his forcefulness and in danger that the parents will tend to punish the child and restrict his initiatives too much. At this stage, that the child will begin to ask many questions of his thirst for knowledge grows. Yes, so children might ask sexuality questions, but then you have to squelch it because they're not ready for a first grader is not ready to know what a non-binary person is. I know people in their 30s and 40s and 50s that aren't even, they're not ready to have that conversation yet. So pushing this kind of crap on kids and talking about masturbation to a first grader is sick. It's disgusting. And it should be pointed out. It shouldn't be praised. It shouldn't even be like, oh, that's just weird. Let's get rid of her. Let's not talk about her. No. This should be addressed and should be talked about. Kids begin to ask many questions. If the parents treat the child's questions as trivial or a nuisance or embarrassing or other aspects of behavior as threatening, then the child will develop feelings of guilt and being a nuisance. Yes. So kids at this age, they ask a ton of questions. Why? How come? They're not necessarily building these deep truths in their brain and understanding logic and trying to figure out the problems of the world and helping them. That's why you don't go to a kid and say, "Hey kid, who should I vote for? What do you think about taxes? What do you think about private healthcare versus public healthcare? Like, what are some of your thoughts?" You just teach them how to love another person, how to develop a sense of security, and they need this stuff. Too much guilt can make a child slow to interact with others and may inhibit creativity. Some guilt, of course, is necessary. Otherwise, a child will not know how to exercise self-control, which is very true. A healthy balance between initiative guilt is important. Success in this stage will produce the virtue of purpose, which failure results in a sense of guilt. During this stage, you want to develop a fully developed kid in this stage will develop a sense of purpose. And what will that purpose do? Change the rest of your life. Give them a foundation of security and feel confidence and purpose for life. I have things I want to accomplish, stuff like that. That purpose will go on to the next stage of industry versus inferiority, but you don't want to have a sense of guilt. And what does that sense of guilt do? Your kids are going to ask questions, and you can't just talk about these concepts. I know maybe it comes from a place of good, of like, maybe we should talk about sex, because if they're asking, we should just tell them. No. Some things in life are on need-to-know basis, especially as a child. I'm not going to go in and tell my kid about, like, the positions mommy and daddy are doing in the bedroom. Like, you don't talk about this stuff. I remember as a first grader, you, like, kissing another girl, and I didn't know what I was doing. I don't even remember, but I was told that, like, it happened. I mean, you don't remember it. You don't. We're just making our kids more insecure and confused about what the world is about and what's going on. And it's a huge problem in my head, and it needs to be addressed. Inside the first grader's brain, there's all these studies I've been looking up, and I'm looking at old stories. This is from 2011. The super sexualized children, time to take notice. This, in 2011, 2010, this was a big push about this is a problem in psychology today. But I've looked up articles, and I'm struggling to find more information about this stuff. Nobody's talking about over-sexualizing our children in today's culture. Why? Because it's not accepted by the mainstream media. It's not accepted as mainstream ideas in academia. They're more and more okay with it as time goes. It's just like you see with COVID-19 and everything, all these doctors that question things, they got dismissed. You're no longer allowed to talk about things in the world. You're no longer allowed to be a scientist in the world, as ideas are seen as not allowed to talk about, or racist, or homophobic, or something, any kind of phobia. They just immediately put it on instead of actually having the conversation. Should we be teaching children about masturbation? Should we be teaching children what a pansexual is, transsexual is? Should we be teaching children these concepts? Should we be pushing this on our kids? And you're seeing a culture divide right now of those that say yes, because this is something that they're going to have to face the rest of their life. And then those of us on the other side say, even if that is true, even if all these major concepts are true and things that we can discuss in culture, their brain is not ready and shouldn't be pushed to think about these concepts, because it's not good for brain development. It's not good for their cognitive development and their emotional development. It's not a good idea. I just love this headline. The super sexualized children, time to take notice. Psychological Today. You will not find articles like this anymore on the liberal side. It's just, and the ones you do, they're probably seen as, the dark web or whatever crap. This week, we saw a Nickelodeon video being pushed to our kids. Nickelodeon. When I was a kid, people were just getting slimed with green slime. There was stupid games being pushed. I think Bozo the Clown, for those who remember, the OGs. And you had to throw a ping pong ball in a bucket for $100. That was like the, I'm pretty sure that was Nickelodeon. That was incredible. I remember as a kid watching that and being like, get that ball in the fucking, get $100. But now you're seeing this. Now you're seeing politics in Nickelodeon. You're seeing documentaries about Kamala Harris and how great she is. It's insane to me. But let's watch this video together, just so you have a little recap of Nickelodeon and their incredibleness. Just kidding. About what's going on. And again, I'm not talking about is non-binary pronouns. I'm not talking about that thing for adults. I'm talking about it for children. I'm just coming at it at that stance. I'm just arguing at that point. So if your point is, how dare you say that? I'm talking about kids. They shouldn't have to think about these issues, especially in that age group, first grade, maybe college, maybe after that, maybe a little high school, not freaking first graders. Let's go. On the inside. Put that pride flag in the eye, be true to you. Great. Red, life, orange, yellow, healing. These are cool, fine colors. These are basic concepts. Great. We're on track. We're doing great. Sunlight, green, nature, blue, harmony. Blue, great, whatever. But this is what they do. They do like little things that you're like, okay, I agree with it, and then they slide it in right at the last second to the point where it's like it's marketing. It's to make you think. It's to make you question this stuff. Purple is spirit. Baby blue, pink, white represent transgender people. What? Transgender people? Does a first grader need to know about transgenderism? No. Why is that such a crazy concept? They shouldn't. They should be just learning how to be friends, how to love someone, how to be a neighbor, what show and tell is, talk about yourself. Don't steal from Sally. Don't punch her in the face. Like, And then they do a little, then they do the fist. Then they do the fist symbol, which has Marxist foundations. It's not just this, Black Lives Matter. It's not just about, supporting black people. I know liberals want to just say that, so that's what Marxism does. They just put these ideas out there and they just want you to accept them, be okay with it. This is just you're just supporting black people. No, you're not just supporting black people. Black Lives Matter, in the beginning of their thing, on their website, first thing, destroying the nuclear family. That's a huge problem, but that's what they want. Why? Because it creates people on social welfare, and you don't have generational wealth. You don't have kids reproducing, and we could do a whole video on it. But here we go, just pushing this symbol immediately in our kids' faces, forcing them to just accept, this symbol, but also question, what the heck did I just see? The queer and trans people of color. Queer and trans people of color. Should a first grader be talking about this? Should a first grader be pushed these concepts? Please tell me. Because I don't think so. They're in a stage right now where they should be developing a sense of security and a sense of just learning how to be a good person. Okay, so we saw that from Nickelodeon this week. We saw a bunch of conservatives, bunch of even liberals talking about the negative effects of these kind of videos being pushed. I could do a whole video about the real things I think is very negative about psychology and just about culture in general. But I'm coming from the stance of the first grade masturbation video and over-sexualizing kids. You're pushing ideas on our kids. As this person said at the end of the video, towards the end, in her band conductor outfit, as ideas were just pushed. Sexuality is pushed. And this is, so that this, again, I'm trying to say this first grader teacher isn't a unicorn. She is not, she's becoming the standard. She's becoming this new generation of teachers going to the workforce. These are some of the concepts that are going to be pushed towards kids. And you have to be ready. You have to think about it. Do you want your kids being forced to think about issues like this as a first grader? So we had Nickelodeon. But let's not forget about freaking Cuties on Netflix. Remember when that was such a huge story that somehow just went away? I was freaked out by Cuties. I was reading, oh God, I don't even want to show this picture, but yeah, there's a little picture. Gross. I was freaking out about it. I read critiques on it. I read it's actually a critique against over-sexualizing children. And I thought, wow, that is fantastic. It's good to see this is actually happening in today's culture because you don't see this. It's not of the regular. But as I saw clips, as I saw things, it was almost like it supported it, but it questioned it. It was very confusing to the point where you're like, maybe this was supporting it because they're pushing these images. They're having these kids do these sexualized dances, and grown men are watching these 12, 13-year-olds do this stuff in front of them, and they're cheering it on. I mean, you see more and more articles about what should be the age limit of consent for sex. They're pushing the boundary more and more, and you need to stand up and fight for it, like I'm doing. I'm doing it right now. I don't care. I could probably lose so much for saying this stuff, but I care about our children and their cognitive development more than I do about these issues being pushed. It's unbelievable. It's literally the most unbelievable thing to think that this is accepted. This is okay. Never growing up in my adult childhood would I be pushed to think about sexuality as a kid. I didn't think about sexuality until I was maybe 7th, 8th grade. Maybe I started thinking about it a little bit more. Yes, we all knew we had a penis or a vagina as a kid growing up, but we didn't think this is for sex. And it shouldn't be pushed. But yet it's part of the narrative. It's part of things being pushed. That's why they like Joe Biden right now. That's why they like all these progressives, they see this as progress. They see, talking about sexuality to our kids as progress. Do you see that as progress? Because I see nothing but regress. You're deregulating our children, and I'm having a hard time not losing my mind at this stuff, and I'm having a hard time logically talking about them because I'm just emotionally so angry seeing this shit, because that's what it is. It's shit. All right, let's go into the video. Let's finish with the video of what the first graders were told to watch. Again, if you're just watching the audio of this, that's okay. I mean, if you're just listening to the audio of this, that's okay. But you're missing the fact that this is a effing cartoon. All right? And it's pushed by Amaze parents. And the description is, to help kids learn that bodies are private with educational video from Amaze Jr. Amaze Jr. offers animated videos for kids as well as videos plus resources to help parents figure out how to provide age-appropriate answers for children. Most common. Wrong. Don't you love that the comments are turned off on YouTube? Of course they're turned off because they know what they're pushing is not right. They know it's not yet a fully mainstream idea, and they know people like you and me will blow up that comment section. Age-appropriate answers for kids is what they push. And what the first grade teacher went, oh, this is a good resource. Because a lot of teachers believe this is okay to talk about. They don't have the cognitive, degree or learning. They don't understand that, but they understand politics, and they want to push their agenda on your kids. Let's watch this video. Let's talk about it. It's literally the most psychotic video I've ever watched.
Pass it, Squeaks.
Don't you love how kid videos always start just like so childish and just like so happy, and like you're just like, oh yeah, these are just small concepts. This is totally okay to talk about. Here's a kid just like learning to pass the ball, because this is what childhood should be about. Hey, I'm a kid, you're a kid. Let's learn how to pass the freaking ball to each other. Let's learn how to be a good neighbor. Remember those developmental stages we were just freaking talking about? Those are stages. Those are what should be taught.
Whoa, watch it. You almost hit me in the pee-pee.
Okay. Okay, that's funny for me because I'm a freaking adult. But again, a lizard was talking about being hit in the pee-pee. Do lizards have pee-pees? No. Why isn't that concept being talked about? Lizards don't have pee-pees. But again, here's politics being pushed for kids. Pee-pee, that is language of children. Yeah, keep going.
What's so funny, you two?
He said pee-pee.
It's funny. And this is a very common thing as a teacher. If someone who's worked in education as myself, you'll walk in, what are you guys talking about? Oh, we're talking about sexual organs. We're talking about pee-pees and poo-poos and cacas. Like, this is normal. And then you just say, is what you do as a teacher. You walk in and you say, okay, well, just try not to kick it there. But, let's play some more games. You don't need to go, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to talk to a 6-year-old about their penises, and we'll talk about girls' vaginas. And not only that, we're going to discuss masturbation, because you're ready for that. Let's keep going.
Do you notice that when you say pee-pee, you giggle, but when you say penis, you say it in a serious voice?
As an adult, I laugh at both of those words. But, okay. All right. What a stupid question to ask a 6-year-old. Have you noticed when you say pee-pee, you giggle, but when you say penis, you don't giggle? If I was a kid, I'd be like, no, I'm pretty sure I giggle at both of them because they both make me feel uncomfortable because I shouldn't be talking about these because I'm freaking in first grade.
I never noticed that before.
Some children.
Let's just hear that one more time.
I never noticed that before.
I never noticed that before. Out of the mouth of babes comes what we as adults should take notice. Don't talk about it then. This kid's not ready for it. This kid doesn't want to talk about it. He's never even thought about it before because they can't understand logical concepts because they're children. That's where it should have just freaking ended, but it didn't. Let's keep going.
Some children and adults feel uncomfortable when they talk.
Yes, children should feel uncomfortable because they're huge concepts. They don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be forced to talk about their sexuality as children.
About their private parts, so they make up cute or funny names for them.
What's one for a girl's private parts?
Vajayjay!
I actually knew girls in high school that would call it that. So, and that's high school. But, and now look, they're gonna share a little giggle because it's uncomfortable.
Parts.
Vajayjay!
But what does Scoops mean when he says vajayjay?
He means vulva.
That's right, Kayla. It's important to use the proper
Okay, just keep going.
words for our private parts.
Why?
Why? Because it doesn't effing matter. That's why. It doesn't matter what they call them. They're freaking children. They shouldn't even be talking about it. You should laugh, giggle, whatever. You got pee-pees, don't touch it. Those are broad concepts. Do not touch another person's private parts. Perfect. That's all you need to know. Stay away from them. They're freaking 5, 6 years old. Don't talk about this stuff, okay? But, we're going to keep going.
Parts.
Why?
Because our private parts are just as amazing as our hearts.
Can we talk about this, look at this cartoon. There's a vagina drawn, it's tiny, but it's a vagina drawn on the cartoon. Okay, again, this video is made for first graders, all right? This isn't a freaking even middle school or high school. This is for our first graders. And people have no problem with this.
Lungs, brains, or any other of our amazing body parts.
But our hearts pump blood, our lungs breathe, and our brains think.
Those are, very basic concepts. Great. Stay there. Just stop.
All our private parts do is pee!
That's
All our private parts do is pee. Says the lizard without a pee-pee that said that he got hit in the pee-pee. Yeah, exactly. That's where it should end. All our private parts do is pee. Great. Let's just leave it at that. That's where it should end. But no, this woke mother wants to keep pushing the issue. Because why? She feels like she needs to be the one to help these kids understand it because they're ready. And then, after a lesson in masturbation, we're going to talk about your taxes. God.
It's not entirely true, Scoops. It is true that a person pees.
Can we talk about this drawing of a penis? It looks like a first grade. It looks like a child's penis. It makes me so uncomfortable. It's so weird. Okay.
That a person pees or urinates through a hole called the urethra in the penis.
Does everyone have a urethra?
They do. It can be harder to see, but girls have a tiny hole in the front of the vulva where
So weird.
urine comes out from their urethra.
Vulva. I remember as a kid it was called a vagina. Let's keep going.
Urination is actually very
Look at that video of it urinating. That's so retarded. It's just so dumb.
important. It helps us get rid of waste, stuff our body doesn't need.
Hey, how come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air?
That
How do you respond to a kid when they ask that question? Sometimes you get excited. You're not going to go, it's called a boner, Johnny. And when you have a boner, that's what you do when you have sex with a woman. I'm trying to stay just sane through this video. Let's keep going. I did know a few of my friends claim that they had boners at early childhood. I don't remember that crap. I don't. Because at that age, I was trying to have fun at school, not talk about my boners. Let's go.
Points up in the air.
That's called an erection.
Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
If a kid says that, you just say, hey, let's keep playing soccer.
Sometimes when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed, I
This
like
is
to
weird.
touch my vulva too.
You have a
Ugh.
clitoris.
That's so freaking uncomfortable. Sometimes when my mom puts me to bed or I'm in the bath, I like to touch my vagina. And this adult is talking to a kid and discussing masturbation to children who I don't think this is even her kids, so it shouldn't even be her choice to even talk about it. It seems like a teacher or just somebody on the freaking playground. Okay, I don't think I need to talk about why it's bad or why we shouldn't do this or why this isn't appropriate for some random AF adult talking to a child about their masturbation with their mom. Because at first I thought this girl was her mom talking. But the fact that she's like, sometimes my mom puts me in bed, it's clearly that's not her mom. Keep going.
Vulva too.
You have a clitoris.
Okay.
I like to touch my vulva too.
You have a clitoris there, Kayla, that probably feels good to touch the same way Keith's penis feels good when he touches it. But have you...
This is for first graders. This is for first graders. I learned about sexuality in middle school. And masturbation was talked about in middle school. And no one knew what they were talking about. And that doesn't mean that is a cue for education to swoop in and start teaching it younger and younger. And also even discussing that. As a teacher, your job is to teach basic concepts. As a first grade teacher, you just go out and do recess. You learn how to draw. You learn what a number is. Not sometimes when I masturbate, I touch myself. And is that cool? Gross. This is so gross. This is just so so uncomfortable. And it's not uncomfortable because I'm uncomfortable with sex. It's uncomfortable because it's for effing first graders. I worked in education. I would never go up to another parent's child and talk about masturbation to a first grader. That is effing insane. You should shut down the conversation and play soccer because that's what they can understand, and then they can learn how to better be a friend. Better call, color in the lines, stuff like that. Not when I masturbate. Sometimes when my penis gets hard, I like to touch myself, and it feels good.
Penis feels good when he touches it. But have you ever noticed that older kids and grown-ups don't touch their private parts in public?
Have you ever noticed? Have you ever looked around and stared at adults' penises and vaginas and see if they're touching themselves? What the fuck is going on? What is going on?
Touch their private parts in public?
They don't?
That's right, Keith.
Well, Keith, I hate to break it to you, but if you go in some of these inner cities, like I lived in Chicago, you might see things you don't want to see. But I would never say that to a kid. This is borderline comical because it's so freaking insane. It's just like...
It's okay to touch yourself and see how different body parts feel.
Yeah, okay.
See how different body parts feel. But it's best to only do it in private.
Well, if private parts are so special, why do you cover them up?
Because they are private, silly.
Yes, and you should remain private in conversation about it with first graders.
That's right, Kayla. Because they are private.
They shouldn't even be talking about masturbation and private parts in front of each other. They're not ready for that.
Hey, Squeaks, pass it.
Look, This kid's like, all right, let's keep playing. Of course, the boy's like, okay, let's keep playing some freaking soccer, dude. I'm tired of talking about masturbation with this random adult at a playground. I don't even know who you are. Who is this adult? He's like, I don't even know what just happened, but I'm ready to keep playing. And that's children for you. They're not ready for logical, deep thinking concepts like masturbation, touching your penis, your vulva. I'm pretty sure Volvos are very reliable cars.
Wait! Okay, I'm ready!
Look, he's about to kick it, and the lizard kid is covering up his fictional penis. And there it is. And there we go, folks. That is a problem in my eyes. That is not okay in my eyes. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? What are your thoughts? Because here's my overall arching theme. Teachers and politicians are speaking more and more to our youth. You're seeing Kamala Harris documentaries, Joe Biden documentaries. You know, they never did any of this stuff for Trump, of course, but they're pushing politics more and more towards kids because why? Because they're insane ideas like critical race theory, because it's so effing racist. It's literally what the Nazis did to the Jews, and how in Nazi Germany talked about the Jews is a lot how critical race theory talks about white men and their whiteness and how they need to repent and forgive and blah, blah, blah. They're teaching our kids politics more and more. I worked in education for a long time, not a long time, but for a while, and I saw it firsthand. More in public school, less than others, but you're seeing it more and more. They're being pushed these concepts they shouldn't even be talking about. They should be learning how to share, how to play sports, how to draw on the lines, what's 1 + 1, what's even 1. I have how many hands up? 5 fingers, count those. If I have 2 of them, how many? Like, we are ruining the next generation and making them insecure and feel guilty and confused. And these children are going to need a lot of therapy and a lot of help as they grow up older, confused. I mean, could you imagine telling, like those stories in Washington, these young white kids and POCs in a room, and they split them up and they tell the white kids, you're the oppressors and you're oppressing your black friend. Even if he's their best friend, you're the oppressor in this situation. And you're teaching kids to hate each other, to separate each other, and you're over-sexualizing them. You're asking them their sexuality. You're not even saying, hey, you're a boy. You feel, there's people out there that feel uncomfortable when they're having a boy, and they say, we're having a boy and we're excited. They're like, how do you know? Or like those parents that are allowing their kids to tell them what their gender is. You can mess with me all you want. You can call me names. I have Antifa that writes emails. I have letters, messages to me. Tell me to F off. Tell me to go F myself. Tell me they'll fight me. People tell me that I'm some maggot. They don't even know me. Calling me names. Calling me a piece of shit. Like, people call me all kinds of stuff online. I always tell people, if you have a problem with people like talking crap to you, or you have like self-image issues, just start a political podcast. That'll help you overcome some of these issues, because people are relentless online. You can do all you want to adults. You can be an asshole all you want, but you mess with kids is when I have a effing problem, because I care about the next generation. I care about these kids developing well and not walking around unregulated and just emotionally not okay, physically not okay, and psychologically not okay, You're screwing up the next generation. You're creating activists instead of people who will progress our society and make us more of a decent human being society. We're creating more people that are like authoritarianism, as China calls their army the liberations army, like they're liberating people. That's bullshit. Those people are in mental slavery, and some are even in I'm sorry for cursing. I'm so mad. They're in slavery. The Uyghur Muslims are in camps as re-education camps, and people don't even know how to discuss this. John Cena apologizes. You are seeing culture change before your eyes, and you have to fight against it, and you have to keep talking about it. Don't just start a podcast like me, but go out into your community and be like some of those parents, like that woman that lived under Mao's China. That story is incredible. Push back on culture because they get tired of fighting you. So who do they turn to next? Children. I wish more conservatives with money would create children's content, because you want to affect change in the future. You start at the foundation. You don't just have AM talk radio. You can't just have another Rush Limbaugh. You have to be better than that. You have to change the culture. If this became a job for me, I will make content for kids that is wholesome and helps them. And I promise you that. If you've ever like, hey, I'm a multi-millionaire and I would love to help you, dude, I will make cartoons. I will make funny content. I will do everything. I'm doing as much as I can right now, but I'm also work full time. I also am going to school. I'm also doing multiple things at the same time. There's a lot going on in my life, but man, we need content. Man, we need people pushing back. We need to change we need to make better content rather than just another conservative like myself going online and bitching about what they're doing. I think it's important for that to happen, because then people won't hear about it. Like I said before, I use DuckDuckGo because Google's algorithm will put things in order for their message to be put out first, rather than just reporting on the facts. You're only seeing some things being pushed by some sources, and stuff like a first grader being taught masturbation videos is not pushed on CNN because they don't see that as a problem. They don't see that, just like black on black crime, like in Chicago, thousands upon thousands of black men have been shot in Chicago. They don't give a crap about that. They'll talk about the one cop shooting the one black person. They'll talk about that all day. Yes, that's still a problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem. So relax. We live in such an outrage culture. If you say like one little thing that's like against the narrative, people are But to say that that's a bigger problem than the black on black crime in Chicago is insanity. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Derek O'Shea Show. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts on this freaking video and what we should do in our, besides, school choice should be a huge thing. I wish more conservatives would create schools and create healthy schools. And because I think that's where change is going to happen. Less in podcasting and talk show hosts. We need more people to teach educational things like our history and things like Martin Luther King Jr. and what his plea was, that America wasn't living up to its standards of being free and accepting of all people. It wasn't that it was racist. It wasn't living up. It's like anytime people read the Bible and then they'll interpret it their own way, and then they'll subjugate people based on scripture and stuff like that, or they'll misinterpret it, or they'll make it say however they want, and they'll take things out of context. So if like a pastor, a priest sexualizes kids, they're not representing God, they're abusing it. That's why when you saw slavery, it wasn't representing American values. It wasn't representing what America is about. It was abusing it and manipulating it, and people were using it in order to get power. And you're seeing that again today. They're manipulating and abusing our children and politics and even in corporate America in order to remain in power and to stay in power. And that's a problem. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Derek O'Shea Show. Please share this. Put it on all social media platforms. Let's spread the word. Let the people know about this. Let everyone know about this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Let me know your thoughts on it. But it really pisses me off. I don't like when people mess with kids. Just don't. I have a big problem with that. Yeah. Have a great day. And as always, again, please share this. Tell your friends about it. I don't know how to keep saying this. Let everyone know about that. I hope I educated you, told you something new, that it's not just another podcast where you're just like laugh and you think, I don't want to be like a gotcha video or like, you know, those 10-second interviews on Fox News where it's like, tell me what your thoughts on cancel culture. And you're like, oh, it sucks. And they're like, okay, yeah, totally. We're going to go to a break now. And you're like, okay, I didn't learn anything. I hope you learned something. Have a fantastic day. And as always, remember to make a difference in someone's life today, because that's the best thing you could possibly do to change the culture around you, is to love your neighbor better than you love yourself. Have a fantastic day. As always, I'll see you on the next episode of The Derek O'Shea Show.